Many thanks for staying with us here on News Desk, and to our earlier story where the Ghana Independent Broadcasters Association may soon be heading to court to seek an interpretation of that particular broadcasting law that has come into force over the past week or so. Let's get some more thoughts on this from private legal practitioner Egbert Fable, who joins us over the telephone lines now. Mr. Fable, good morning. Many thanks for your time on News Desk.
Good morning.
So, a lot that seems to have brought a lot of uproar, particularly among the media fraternity, with a lot of people suggesting that this might probably be a return to the dark days, the days when people couldn't really express themselves and let us know what really the situation in the country was. Now, is this an assertion you agree with? Would this law in any way have an effect on how things are done here on the media landscape?
Well, let me first of all say that I have not seen a copy of the legislative instrument. Yesterday, I went to the Assembly Press, which is a government printer, to get a copy. Unfortunately, they do not have copies there, so I'm sure in the coming weeks we may all get copies. But from what I have seen in the media, particularly based on the Daily Graphic reportage of yesterday, I think that there's a basis for worry. There's a basis for worry because if you realize, for a publication that is not out, Graphic obtained it either on its own motion or at the instance of the NMC to suit a certain agenda. And that agenda is to come out boldly in that reportage yesterday on private electronic media owners of certain consequences in the yet to be made available LI. I think that it is worrying. Now, from again, looking at the Graphic report, it says that Regulation 3.1 of the LI says that an operator shall not convey or permit to be carried content on a public electronic communication service or a broadcasting service without obtaining a content authorization from the Commission. Now, from my knowledge as someone who has media experience and also as a lawyer, I would say that it is preposterous, for example, to request of multimedia that anytime that multimedia is going to air its flagship program, let's say News File, it should bring the topics it is going to let's say, discuss, you understand? But I see a situation where, for instance, at the beginning of the year or as the licensing regime requires, multimedia will, as an example, take, this is News File. This is, if you like, the program format of News File. We'll look at politics and topical national issues. When it is that, I don't think that anybody has a problem. But when you go to a certain level, as is being, portrayed now, that the content of a particular show or program on electronic media ought to be cleared with the Media Commission before. It is dangerous. It will be preposterous to live in such a regime. It is unacceptable.
But again, I've heard from quarters now. I mean, this has always been the case. I mean, we are supposed to report to the National Media Commission what it is we do. This is just providing legal basis and legal backing to the NMC such that organizations or media houses that fail to carry out this particular mandate are sanctioned. So what really is the noise about?
The noise is right, and I must say that if it is up to the simple issue of just reporting to NMC that this is my program profile, I don't think anybody has a problem with it. But when you posture, as is being done now, that program content ought to be cleared with the Media Commission before it is aired, then if you situate it in the light of Article 162 4 of the 1992 Constitution, it makes it very clear. It says editors and publishers of newspapers and other institutions of mass media shall not be subject to control or interference by government, nor shall they be penalized or harassed for their editorial opinions and views on the content of their publications. This is a clear constitutional right, Article 1624. But I'm also not unmindful of the fact that just beneath Article 1624, the Constitution also provides Article 164. And I read that the provisions of Articles 162 and 163 of this Constitution are subject to laws that are reasonably required in the interest of national security, public order, public morality, and for purpose of protecting the reputations, rights, and freedoms of other persons. If you go through this, proviso, as provided in this Article 164, it says that, yes, you have the freedom, but this freedom is subject to laws that are reasonably required. The question is, LI 2224.
Yeah.
Is it reasonably required? I would say no. at this critical point in our national development aspirations, because if laws in the interest of national security, the Criminal Procedure Act or the Criminal Act 29, Criminal and Other Offences Act, has several, consequences or punishments or laws that deal with it. So the law on causing fear and panic, for instance, has been brought against certain persons who have used the media and the rest. So why is it necessary that we don't have to clear content before? If you have the law on causing fear and panic, we have laws against publication of obscene materials and pornography and the rest. The laws of defamation are already in existence. So why then do you, refrain from using those laws to regulate the media and then go to the point where now I even want to see what you want to put out?
Mm.
I think that it is a serious curtailment of the freedoms of the media as enshrined in the 1992 Constitution.
Egbert, do hold on for me briefly while I bring into this particular conversation George Appenting, the Executive Secretary of the National Media Commission. Mr. Appenting, good morning. Many thanks for your time.
You want to speak to Mr. Appenting?
Okay, so we still do have George Sapon, I'm told, is the Executive Secretary of the National Media Commission, joins us on the phone lines now. Mr. Sapon, so let me ask, is it really the case that you are seeking to curtail our freedoms? You don't really want us to do what we are supposed to do?
Rather, it is to enhance our freedom by creating an environment for responsible media practice. But let me first of all, I thought I heard a voice like Chief.
Indeed, that was lawyer Egbert Fable.
Okay, Chief, how? I've been coming here. Back to your question, my brother. First of all, let us explain that this law changes nothing in the broadcasting environment. All it does is to place the issues very squarely in the hands of network operators, including owners, not journalists, not editors, not broadcasters, not presenters. The law only enjoins network operators to undertake their gatekeeping functions properly, and it holds them accountable to the society.
But that's a bit interesting. I'm wondering what my Chief Executive Officer, Kwesi Chum, what role he has to play with me sitting on air and saying something that, according to your own laws, might be against the regulations.
That is precisely the point. I do not want to believe that the suggestion is that the owners have reneged their responsibility and left their institutions to their own devices. Everywhere, the broadcaster has a responsibility to institute internal, we call them gatekeeping processes, to make sure that their networks are not abused to the detriment of society. So all that this law is saying is that anybody who occupies or who controls the means of public communication also has a responsibility to the society, and that the society, through this law, will hold that person accountable. And so it has nothing to do with presenters or journalists or editors.
Per your own definition, what constitutes abuse in this regard?
I do not submit abuse as any term of art beyond the English language.
But again, if you do say that this is to keep in check owners who choose to abuse the media, I mean, it's quite ambiguous. I need to get an understanding of what...
I have not used those words. I'm saying that it is to hold the network operators responsible and accountable to society.
Mr. Fabio, this is what the NMC is telling us, that really it's not about the content you are generating or anything, but even indirectly, it might suggest so, but their claim is just to make sure that the owners are responsible.
Well, I think that I disagree with my friend, Mr. Sapon, on this. Yes, Article 162 162.4 mentions that editors and publishers of newspapers and other institutions of the media shall not be subject to control or interference by government. Now, he says that this LI is aimed at owners of the media, but owners of the media don't work in a vacuum. They work through editors. They work through journalists.
True.
So if you say that Mr. Kwesijum of multimedia is supposed to ensure that his programs are regular, who does he actualize the programs through? Does he not actualize it through the team of journalists, as one of whom you are, who is presently, even communicating or broadcasting to the world at large? So we as lawyers have something we call the modern, objective, purposive approach to interpretation. That's editors and publishers, as used in Article 1624, exclude owners of media, saying that the Media Commission is now bringing this LI to streamline or regulate owners of media. Don't forget, when you say owners of media, as far as I'm concerned, no such business in this republic runs as a sole proprietorship. They are all registered limited liability companies. So they are separate and distinct from their owners in law. As in, multimedia broadcasting is the owner of, if you like, the empire, the media empire that you have there, which has several other stations and what have you. It is not Kwesijum. It is an entity. You understand? So when we look at, that is why I think that this thing has to be tested in court for the Supreme Court or whoever it is to interpret, the necessary and relevant portions of our Constitution in relation to what the Parliament has passed. I think that this thing ought to be seriously looked at.
Mr. Fable, many thanks for your time on News Desk this morning. Egbert Fable is a private legal practitioner, but I still have on the phone lines George Sapon, who's with the National Media Commission. He's the Executive Secretary. Mr. Sapon, so indeed, I tend to agree with quite a number of the things Mr. Fable reiterated a while ago. But let me just bring you back to this. Now, according to this LI, it says an operator shall not convey or permit to be carried content on a public electronic communication service or a broadcasting service without obtaining a content authorization from the Commission. What does that mean? That I need to write to you and tell you on this show today I want to speak to Mr. Sapon and Mr. A or B?
Not at all.
So what does that mean exactly?
Let me explain the concept of broadcasting regulation. Everywhere in the world, there is no country in the world where you can carry on broadcasting in the nature that we do without any kind of authorization. You need sometimes a full license to broadcast everywhere in the world. Now, there are two systems. In countries that have converged regulators, and when we say converged regulators, we have regulators who have authority to regulate both technical specifications, including the spectrum, and then regulation of content. In some countries, both elements are merged. So in the United Kingdom, for example, when Ofcom gives you a license, that license contains two permissions. One is the permission to use a frequency for broadcast. Two is to carry content on that frequency. It is the same in the United States. In many other countries, the situation is different. When you have two different regulators or non-converged regulators. In Ghana, we have non-converged regulation. So the National Communications Authority regulates the spectrum and technical specifications. So when they give you a license, that license contains only one permission, which is the permission to use the spectrum. So you need an added permission for the carriage of content to make the license whole, as is the case in the United States or in the case of UK. So broadcasting regulation, this is very consistent with international best practice, that you cannot carry on broadcasting without any kind of authorization. When we use content in those legislation, it is to distinguish between content authorization and spectrum or frequency authorization. And that is why we specify that this one is just for content and it does not include spectrum or frequency. So all that it means is that you obtain the permission or the authorization for a period. Under this LI, it is 3 years. And then you go on with your broadcast, just as you people are doing today. Nothing will change, nothing at all. You will carry on your broadcasting the way you have been carrying on every day. You don't need anybody's permission You don't need to clear your content with anybody if you are going to carry. You don't need to sound NMC whether you are going to talk to experts or talk to George or talk to anybody else. That is not what the law is saying.
So you are saying that for now we do not need to clear with you and all, but
it is not for now. That is what the law says. So it didn't change anything.
So if nothing is going to change, why they need to bring this to this particular point? Why they need to bring to get legal backing for such a thing?
Yes, the need to do that is to enable the commission to take charge where there is a massive irresponsibility, as we saw in the 2008 elections. So that if anybody seeks to use a network that brings the society on edge, the commission should be able to intervene.
Okay, so
the commission is determined to do.
Just a second. Now, we are in an election year, so and we do have a very huge network here. And if let me put it again, if usually in election year we do have polls that we do, and we do have our analysts and all, and our researchers who go around and research on some of these things, particularly voting patterns and all. And based on how results are coming in and the trends, we are able to project whoever the winner is or whoever is supposed to gain whatever it is. But if we are to call based on our projections and it turns out to be wrong, does the media commission then come in and say we've misreported?
No.
So
there is no way any regulator can say that because your predictions were wrong, they can intervene. Because by the very nature of the analysis you've done, this is a prediction, and you are not forcing anybody to accept that. You understand? If it is responsibly done and it is professionally done. For example, there are 1,000 people involved in an election. Out of the 1,000, 900 have voted. Out of the 900 that voted, 800 voted for candidate A. 100 voted for candidate B. Hello?
I'm listening, sir.
Yes. So it is, we have 100 votes that have not come in. Even if we add all 100 votes to candidate B, it will still be 800 against 200. So on the basis of these figures, we statistically think that candidate A has won the election. If for some unimaginable reason the results turn out otherwise, any observer would know that you did your professional work, and therefore you cannot be held to account over this. What is in issue is a situation where some radio stations, as happened in Rwanda, as happened in Kenya, decide that for my selfish interest, I'm going to incite ethnic or religious conflict against tribe A or tribe B. And that radio station's attention is drawn to it repeatedly, and they don't change. Then the operators of that network will be held to account. That is what this law implies.
Now, many are saying, as regulators, the NMC, you've done quite a terrible job monitoring and sanctioning media houses that have gone contrary to your own regulations, and you're just seeking to hide behind this and punish people. I mean, just try to get a scapegoat to make yourself relevant.
That is the interesting part. When the people have said, and that's contradictory in itself, when the people have said in the past that we had not done so, they had used the dog metaphor to say we are toothless. In other words, when people misbehave, we are only able to tell them not to do it again.
Exactly.
And then they do it again and again and again. This is perhaps one of the reasons why the citizens of Ghana, when they appeared before the Constitutional Review Commission, persistently indicated that the National Media Commission needs to take charge of the environment, and that is what we have done. It is important that everybody understands that for most network operators, sincerely, who are operating within our environment, they have nothing to fear at all, because everything that they are expected to do, even by their own moral conscience, is what this law is codifying and asking them to do. So there is nothing new.
So why then are they seeking to get an interpretation of this whole thing and possibly shoot it down?
Every citizen within the policy has a certain entitlement, and one is to go to court. So nobody can make a comment on that, and I believe that if or when we meet in court, any concerns that everybody has will be addressed. But let me indicate to you that I have heard a number of our colleagues cite Article 162 and 163, and they completely forget that the most important operative provision is 164, because both 162 and 163 are subject to the provisions of 164. Yeah. And 164 makes it constitutional to have laws that are reasonably required in the interest of national security, public order, and public morality. So we need to put all these things together to understand that what the Constitution guarantees us is the right to express ourselves freely. But nobody has a right to use broadcasting to destroy this country. No country has granted anybody any such right. And that right does not exist in Ghana. To the extent that people want to use the media responsibly, they can be as robust as they want. They can be as critical as they want of every institution. But nobody is permitted to bring this nation down.
Mr. Sapon, so finally, before you go, could it be the case that this whole thing, this whole conversation came about and the subsequent passage of this LI was because the commission has found out that certain individuals particularly are becoming too powerful because they probably own too many platforms, media platforms?
No, but how... this law, for example, says nothing about how many radio stations or how many. In fact, media concentration has nothing to do with this at all. There are issues of media concentration that the broadcasting law addresses itself to. The proposed bill that GIBA is contending, or some members of GIBA are contending. That is a political economic question. In other words, it speaks to who within the polity has the right to own the means of public communication and how much of it. That one is not part of this legislation at all. All that this legislation is saying is that, in fact, the owner of a particular network may well be old Nick, the devil himself. NNC doesn't care. But what we are saying is that if Satan himself set up a radio station in Ghana, he will have to abide by some minimum standards, or you will have to pay public accountability. That is all this law is asking for.
Right. Many thanks for your time on News Desk this morning. And George Sapon is the Executive Secretary of the National Media Commission. He joined us over the telephone lines and he sought to explain a few things about that new legislative instrument that seems to be all over the place. And well, we'll try as much as possible and follow through this particular issue. And when indeed we do have the Ghana Independent Broadcasters Association, we will bring the side of the issue to you as well. But away from that, let's turn our attention to politics. And the 2012 flag bearer of the Convention People's Party, Dr. Busakara, has announced his decision to contest the 2016 presidential elections as an independent candidate. Dr. Sakara made known his decision in a release last night, explaining his action as directed at providing a more focused platform for national interest and nation building. Now, his independency is aimed at providing well-meaning Ghanaians an alternative to the NDC and NPP in the country's body politic. Ni Ama Akomfa is the General Secretary of the Convention People's Party. He joins us on phone now with a reaction to this particular issue. Mr. Akomfa, good morning. Many thanks for your time on News Desk.
Good morning. Good morning.
And sorry for having to put you on for so long. But really, this can't be such good news for the CPP. Already, your numbers are not so encouraging, and a lot more people are leaving.
Well, I don't think that. Firstly, we haven't received any formal communication from Dr. Sakara, whether a resignation letter or indeed any communication explaining a position. We will obviously want all our members to remain with the party as particularly given the process that we followed going back to April. We've gone energized our practice. We've traveled the country, 275 constituencies, we've been to 10 regions, we've had elections upon elections, and we are almost there with our plans begun under the old administration, continued under this administration. We will elect the flag bearer at the end of this month. And so we are confident that all that we need to do as a party we're doing. It's a bit of a surprise for us to hear on the news or from a press release through the media that the decision. We will appeal to him to think through his decision, but we will await to see what he submits to the party.
Do hold on. Let me try and see what I do have on the line, Mr. Tete Boawolo Ehiawe, who's spokesperson for Dr. Abu Sakara, to try and get some answers from him as to why they haven't officially communicated this particular issue to the CPP. Okay, I'm told we do not have him on the line. We'll try and raise him on the line and get some answers as well. But Mr. Akofra, so
no, what I'm saying is we have we've drawn up plans for the election year.
Okay.
We've drawn up a plan which has taken us from the old administration to the new administration. Began as far back as April. We're almost there with the election of the flag bearer. There was an election year plan, a very vigorous plan for every branch, for every single person in the party, which delivers hope, will bring hope to Ghanaians, which will seek to deliver a new future for Ghanaians. So we are confident, we are hopeful that we have a plan to energize our it's a bit of a surprise, but we'll wait, as I said, to see what.
Is this particular decision by Dr. Abu Sakara likely to have any impact whatsoever to the chances of the CPP as we move into this year's general elections?
I think that as we've already heard on many media platforms, the CPP has the intellectual capacity, has the intellectual ability with numerous people to be able to deliver for Ghana. We want every single individual to be on board, but it's a personal decision, and we'll wait to see what Dr. Sakara will say. But obviously, we think that we have a plan for Ghana, and we'll pursue that plan.
Well, one of the reasons he cites in this letter is the CPP's apparent lack of direction. Is that anything to be worried about? The CPP, you seem not to be quite focused.
No, I think that we're clear on what our ideology is. We're clear on what our philosophy is, and I think anybody in the media or anybody in the political landscape would know how vigorous we've been in the last 3 years in pursuing our agenda, in sharing our ideas to people of Ghana, in challenging the government on many fronts.
So that particular statement from Dr. Sakara, you see as unfair. I mean, clearly over the past 2 or 3 years, you have been trying to form some sort of coalition with the PNC. It seems you don't know whether or not you really want to be alone or you want to join forces with the PNC.
No, what we're seeking to do is to clearly build an alternative platform to the NDC and MPP agenda, which has not delivered for Ghana. And we've asked Ghanaians to embrace that platform, including the minority party. And that will continue. Numbers are important, yes, but we will not create any obstacles for ourselves. The platform is being built, and that has been shown in many respects on how we tackle the security of our nation, how that affects farmers on the EPA, on the IMF conditionality, on the energy sector, in many fronts. Indeed, the CEP youth are giving blood to this nation. On many fronts, we are showing that self-respect is the key. So we are out there energetically pursuing our agenda, energetically offering an alternative.
Okay, many thanks for your time on News this morning. Nyama Akomfra is the General Secretary of the Convention People's Party. But I still have on the phone lines Tete Boawolo Ehiawe, who is the spokesperson for Dr. Abu Sakara, and he joins us on phone now with some thoughts on this. So, Mr. Boawolo, good morning. Thanks for joining us. Why again? Well, aside the reasons he cites in that particular release, why really does Dr. Sakara choose to leave the CPP? Really, he stands quite a better chance with the CPP than standing alone.
Thank you very much, my brother. I think the statements we've issued speaks for itself. The central theme of his decision is simply premised on his vision of how Ghana ought to be. And he thinks that the current political discourse has not helped the country much. You and I know that the extreme partisanship has brought us nowhere. Look at the current situation a situation whereby people who are competent enough to handle certain things in our country don't have that opportunity simply because they are not in the right political color. Indeed, those who don't even join any political parties seem to be out of the equation, if I may put it. So he is creating this national interest platform to galvanize that support base in our nation. Because it looks as if some few people have hijacked this nation. And when it comes to political discourse today, if you speak your mind about any subject, you are either tagged with A or B, thereby stifling proper discourse. And we think that this platform will open up the political space.
Again, I'll come to my main issue of, he seems to have a pretty good plan, pretty interesting plan, but before you can implement this plan, you need to be president. Standing alone as Dr. Abu Sakara, really, one would say your chances are not that bright.
I think that the problem with most of us is that paths that have not been traveled before, we always have difficulty with this. The fear of the unknown is what normally inhibits or hinders us from making progress. Therefore, after all, just near us in West Africa, Benin has done it. Yai Boni won. And whatever takes place in other jurisdictions, given the same condition, can happen here.
And do you think the country is ready for something like that? The electorates are ready for such a thing?
The electorate will only be ready if they hear your message and you are able to convince them that what you are telling them is credible. Then they will move with you. Nobody, no political party owns any electorate in this country. No political party, not even their core supporters. Nobody owns them. Anybody can change his mind. So that's it.
Now, many are suggesting that the seeming rift or disagreement between Dr. Abu Sakara and former chairman of the party, I'm speaking of Samia Nkrumah, could be the reason for Dr. Sakara's departure. Is this one of the many reasons?
To the best of my knowledge, I'm not aware of any rift between Dr. Sakara and Samia. Because if there is a rift, I believe you, the media, would have already sniffed and brought it to light. For now, I'm not aware of any seeming rift between the two of them. In any case, she's no longer the national chair. So why should there be any rift between Honorable Samia and Dr. Sakara?
Right. Okay. Many thanks for your time on News Desk. We'll try and touch base with you subsequently in the course of the day for some more. And that was Tetebu Awolowo, spokesperson for Dr. Abu Sakara, 2012 flag bearer of the Convention People's Party. Well, the information we are told is that he has broken away from the particular party. He says he wants to go independent and wants to bring a lot more hope to the many Ghanaians who are desperately seeking it. You're still watching News Desk here on Joy News on Multi TV. Time now for some business right after these messages.